Hi, Stormcarrots here. I'm supposed to be doing math homework, but math makes me cry. So I'm gonna do something else first that I like a hell of a lot better than math. I'm gonna give you guys a list of my top 5 favorite cartoons. This is specific to Western animation, like mostly American animation, because there are some that are from different countries that aren't anime, so they're still cartoons, but these are all my favorite cartoons from Western animation. I might do another video for others in like Winx Club that are from Italy, or others that are from like France, etc., etc. And I'm definitely going to be doing another video of my top 5 anime, but that's going to take a little bit longer for me to put together. I don't watch as much anime as I used to. I've definitely been watching a lot more Western cartoons recently, and I don't have as much of the attention span for anime as I used to, because with like cartoons in English, I can just put them on and do my homework while I watch them, and like with anime, it's a little bit harder to do that because a lot of the dubs are I hate like the whole dubs are awful, you can't watch dubs ever thing. It rubs me the wrong way, but a lot of the stuff that I watch either doesn't have a dub, or I just don't like the dub in particular, so it's just harder for me to watch some more anime than it is Western cartoons. So with that being said, I'm going to start off with my list. The top on my list right now is most definitely, as you can probably tell, Voltron, Legendary Defenders. I got into this show, and I got into it super hard, super fast. Like, I was seeing a bunch of art for it on my dash on Tumblr, and I wasn't really sure what it was. I was like, okay, whatever, and I just kind of like scrolled past it, but a lot of the art was so goddamn cute and like so pretty that I was like, okay. Eventually, like, as soon as Keith's vlog came out, actually, that was what got me to start watching the series, because I watched it, and I was like, who the fuck is this cute motherfucker? So, I knew from the beginning that Keith was, spoiler alert, Keith was Gara. It's not really a spoiler, that's from, like, season 3, but, a lot of the people I know still haven't watched Voltron, so if they see this, I don't want them to know. But I already knew about him from the beginning, because that was actually what got me into the series. Like, was the Clance fan art and then Keith's vlog. And I don't know, something clicked in me and just made me want to watch it. And since then, I have been obsessed with it. It's ridiculous. Like, the thing is that I don't usually get into a lot of sci-fi, and I don't get into a lot of mech anime. Definitely, I was never a fan of mech anime. I've always been just that like loser who's like all about the shoujo anime and the the magical girls and the yaoi, but I love it. Like, I got super obsessed. Like, the storyline is great, and I think part of it might have something to do with the animation company and DreamWorks. Like, DreamWorks, I've always been a huge fan of DreamWorks and the stuff that they put out. And then the animation company, I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but the animation company that worked on Legend of Korra, like, those are both two companies that provided really great art, which for me was always my biggest like hurdle in watching like sci-fi or mech anime, was that just the art style was just disgusting, and I didn't want to watch it because I just like pretty things. And then it had a lot of the elements that Avatar had that I really like. Avatar and Legend of Korra had that I really admired, like the really good balance of humor and really intense storyline. So there were really intense battles, really intense storyline, but there was still humor in a way that it's not out of place, and the humor is very well done. And then the characters, of course, the characters were a huge thing that brought me in. Obviously, with Keith's vlog, I saw a little bit of his character, and it just drew me in, you know, like, just the way that they did the characters and how much I connect with the characters has really made it one of those things that I just have just been obsessed with recently, you know, since I started watching it a couple months ago. And so it definitely, that's why I mentioned it first, because it hit me harder than almost any show has. Like, it hit me harder than my Naruto phase, and that was pretty hard. Like, I got hit pretty hard with my Naruto phase, and thankfully I'm a lot less embarrassing now. At least I hope so. So the next one is gonna actually be Star versus the Forces of Evil, and I know a lot of people have had problems with this show, I guess, especially since it's Disney, and so the, like, heteronormativity kind of gets in the way a lot. There's not a lot of like LGBT representation, like, not so much in Voltron either so far. I'm kind of hoping, please DreamWorks, a little bit of LGBT representation. I know Lance, like, his voice actor or someone said at a panel that he is bi, but I don't know how canon that is. I'm still kind of new to a lot of that stuff, but I really am, like, Star is one of those things where I don't see a lot of possibility of them doing any sort of LGBT representation, but the show itself, I think, has a lot of really good themes, like, with Star learning, you know, responsibility, with her making mistakes and maturing from it, with her going through issues with, you know, her mom, her family, being a princess. Like, they really acknowledge a lot of the problems that she's going through, and they allow her to make mistakes that aren't just, I guess the way I would put it is, like, cliche mistakes. You know, every superhero in every teen cartoon or show or movie makes a mistake, and it's usually one major mistake, but Star herself makes a lot of mistakes. She fails a lot. She, you know, a lot of things go over her head. She doesn't really think things through all the time, but she's still a hero. She's still powerful. She's still great. She's still a good friend. You know, people love her. You know, she's still on her way. Like, she's still learning from those mistakes and improving and going to be a princess. And, you know, Marco, he has a lot of character development as well, and with the two of them developing together, and then all of the, you know, Starco drama, and the, you know, Tom in particular, I actually kind of, he's not necessarily a Zuko-esque character, because he didn't start out evil. Like, no one so far, aside from Toffee, has been, like, that big, bad, evil dude. And even then, you know, he was taken down, not easily, but he was, you know, and like Ludo, he was the big bad of season 1, but he was basically like a comic relief villain, very Draken-esque. He seemed very Draken-esque, and I kind of liked that. You know, I watched Kim Possible a lot growing up, and it was interesting seeing cartoons bringing that back, because a lot of cartoons have gotten very intense, and their villains are very ruthless and scary. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's a nice throwback to villains being kind of incompetent and hilarious. So, and the art style too. Like, I really like the art and just the colorfulness of Star, because part of the reason I watch cartoons half the time is the world is scary and the world sucks and I want to watch, fluffy, colorful things that make me feel happy, even if they do make me feel heckin' feels, So it's really nice to see that. Like, the art style really does a lot with helping calm me when I watch it, although I end up, screaming. Don't even get me started on when I watched the Song Day episode, The Ballad of Star Butterfly. I didn't realize that Patrick Stump was going to be in it, and anyone who knows me knows that I fucking love Fall Out Boy, and so the fact that he was in it also made a huge difference. I sing that song a lot. And then, okay, so the video's getting a little long, so I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. Steven Universe is another show that I hold pretty close to my heart. I started watching it back in 2015, right around the time Jailbreak aired. And I caught up just before Keystone Motel, I think. I watched it right around the time Jailbreak aired, and, I started catching up right around the time Keystone Motel aired, and then because I binge watched it. I went crazy over it. Same with my Voltron obsession. Steven Universe was one of those shows that I just got obsessed with immediately. I did a bunch of fan art for it, planned cosplays, I made a side blog for it, which I haven't actually done for Voltron, but, it's probably coming. But Steven Universe is one of those shows that has a controversial fandom, I guess. There are a lot of people in the fandom that have gone completely off the rails, like the instance with Lauren Zook getting pushed off of Tumblr, which pissed me off. Lauren's a pretty awesome person. I follow her there. I think there. I'm not quite sure. I followed their Twitter and Tumblr, and, I followed their Tumblr and their Twitter, and they're pretty awesome, and they interact with their fans a lot, which they don't have to do. But, Steven Universe, it brought me out of... I watched it right after I got over a pretty bad breakup, 2015. I had a pretty bad breakup in 2014, and 2015 I did enter into a really good... a really good relationship, but I started watching Steven Universe pretty close after that. So it was one of those things where I was kind of in a really bad state of mind, and I was still trying to get used to having a healthy relationship, and I was having roommate problems, I was having problems at work, all this kind of different stuff, and Steven Universe was my weekly calm down. I would watch it every week when the new episodes aired, and draw fan art right after, and talk to people about it, and it became a really good place for me to calm down with, and it just became, I really identified with a lot of the characters. I really liked the art style. The art style was really easy for me to draw as well. The characters were easy to draw, so it was easy to just push out a lot of fan art and get it out of my system. And the LGBT representation in the show, I know that it's hard for animators and for cartoons to get that through, because the the cartoon studios don't want to push that through. They don't want that. They're nah. And then Rebecca Sugar was make it gayer, and we all love her for it. The representation within the show and the themes that they tackle. Steven Universe tackles a lot of what people would call adult themes. Consent. Of course, as soon as I go to talk about it, I'm what does it do? They tackle a lot of themes like consent, with fusion, they tackle relationships and rejection and being blamed for your mother's war crimes. You know, they got really intense really fast. Like, it was one of those shows where you watch and you're like, oh, this is so sweet and so, you know, fun, and then it gets really intense really fast and you're like, ah. So all in all, I really love Steven Universe. You know, I haven't been as obsessed with it. It's been overshadowed a little bit by my Voltron obsession, but Steven Universe always has just a big place in my heart. And then, speaking of shows that got really dark really fast, the next one is Gravity Falls. I love Gravity Falls. It was one of those shows, like I said, it got really dark really fast, and it wasn't a bad thing, really. Like, the art style was great, and I really enjoyed just binge watching all 3 seasons. Like, I think I started watching it right before Weirdmageddon came out, and so I binged watched the whole thing, and then I was finally caught up right before Weirdmageddon, so I got to see all of that in succession, and I was like, like, I freaked out. So I really liked the mystery to it. I really liked the supernatural themes, and I really liked the family themes. I myself have a lot of family issues, so seeing that kind of tackled in a show, like in a cartoon, was really awesome. And of course, Dipper and Mabel and Stan are just some great characters. Like, Dipper and Mabel particularly, they're really great protagonists. They're really, you can really tell that they're kids. Like, with a lot of shows, they kind of, it's hard, you forget that they're kids when you watch these shows, because they have all this responsibility put on them, and people write them so mature and responsible. And with Dipper and Mabel, with Gravity Falls, I really saw they were kids. Like, you can really see that, and it was nice. It was a nice change to see that even though they're mature and sort of handling, you know, the stuff that's being thrown at them in a mature way, you can tell that they're still kids, and they're freaking out, and they're making mistakes, and it's very realistic, and I really liked that about it. And then with how intense it got, I really enjoyed the way that they portrayed Bill as a villain. Like, he was an absolute villain, you know. He's like this weird, evil enigma, and he has his own interests in mind. He will screw you over, and that's very realistic as far as, like, people trying to, you know, like, villains in real life. That's what they do. They have their own interests at heart, and they will screw you over. And it's either one of two things. They will, and they don't know that they're doing it. They don't know that they're a villain, or they do, and they don't care, and they're just a bad person. And I really liked that aspect of it. And then number 5, you know, the last but not least, cliche, Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. That show, okay, let me tell you. That show, I started watching when it came out when I was like 11 or 12. It has had such a place in my heart since I was a little tiny tween. Before I even really got into, like, anime. This was before my weeb phase, okay? Before I was just constantly watching, you know, okay, I've always been, like, constantly watching cartoons, constantly watching anime. I started watching anime pretty early. But, like, that show was the first show that really made me emotional, I think. Like, Kim Possible, Danny Phantom, and Avatar: The Last Airbender were the 3 shows that really got me, like, emotional in a way that I understood. I didn't even start getting that emotional about Pokemon until, like, later, when I understood a lot of the stuff going on in Pokemon. But Avatar: The Last Airbender was so well done. Like, aside from the art style, like, the art style is beautiful, the animation is beautiful, but Avatar: The Last Airbender is done so well in so many ways. Like, the characters, I think, is the biggest part of it. The characters were so relatable, so realistic, and so human. Like, they fit a lot of archetypes, but they were just people. Like, they fit writing archetypes, but they were still just kids. They were kids. They were teenagers, and they were so realistically written. It was so important for me, because I was the same age as Aang when the series started, and it was so important to me to see Aang handling responsibility, to see Aang handling relationships with others, to see Aang handling, problems in the world, because to me, the stuff that I was going through felt like saving the world. When you're 12, all of your problems feel as intense as saving the world. Particularly with some of the stuff that I was going through as, a 12-year-old and as a teenager. And so they were so relatable. So all the characters were so relatable. And even as I got older, they just continued to be very relatable characters. And the story was so well done in a way that it made me cry so much. Like, I cry at every show, okay? I am an emotional person. I will scream and cry, but nothing gets my tears flowing more than Avatar: The Last Airbender. And man, that show really, really got to me, and it was just so well done. I love it so much, and it was actually one of my first ships too. With Katara and Aang. And I remember being so excited about season 3. And I remember being like 13, 14 years old and arguing with, older teenagers on the internet about Zutara versus Katang and all this nonsense. So it was a really big, window for me. Like, it opened up a lot for me as far as, my taste in cartoons and my taste in anime and stuff like that. And with Legend of Korra, that came out when I was a lot older. I think I was 19 when Legend of Korra, 19 or 20 when Legend of Korra came out. And I liked it. A lot of people did not like it. And the biggest problem that I had with that was that I think that people were just expecting it to be the same as The Last Airbender, and I went into it being like, okay, it is a different series. But I think that it had a lot of the aspects of The Last Airbender that I loved. The characters, the really intense plot, the balance of comedy versus intense plot, and the world building. There was an intense amount. There was actually a lot more world building in Legend of Korra, I think. Like, it really went into depth about, the history of the Benders and, what bending really is and the political structure of it. And I guess because I'm older, I liked it a lot more because I was like, okay, this is very realistic. You are now going into, a modern world where technology is involved in it, politics are involved in it, and it's a completely different time period. It's 70, 80 years in the future, and they've introduced, society very similar to ours, technology, and are explaining how that is interacting with the bending, with the lore of the world and the background and everything. And I really liked how they did that. I liked that they did that in general. I think that it's really important to show how the politics of, supernatural powers are. It's really important to show, okay, we're not just, saving the world and having these cool powers. There are power structures in place. And they did that in The Last Airbender, but it was very different because of the different time period. And, we see the concerns of people who feel that they're oppressed by benders, how Korra reacts to that. And Korra is a completely different character from Aang. So Korra really gives, I think that people were shocked by how different she is, but she is a very different person from Aang. She's a completely different avatar, and so the way that she's interacting with the world and this world, and the way that she's handling being the avatar is completely different, and I don't think it's necessarily in a bad way. And then of course there's the fact that she's much older. They're just a general, they're an older age group. She's 16. They're all around 16, 17 when the show starts, and I think at the end they're 19, 20 years old, because there's that 3-year time skip. So they're a completely different age group. So I think a lot of people I heard were complaining about how much relationship drama there was in it. But I mean, have you ever met a group of 16-year-olds? It's a lot of relationship drama, and especially with Korra and Asami. That I actually have never actually finished Legend of Korra. I found out about Korra Asami just from the internet, and I've seen snippets from the comic, and it's that was amazing. Having two bi girls in an endgame relationship at the end of this series that I have loved so much, that the series that I loved and watched through my entire adolescence, and being an LGBT person, seeing that was really awesome. Seeing that was stunning and exciting, and I was kind of sad that it got spoiled for me, but I didn't even care. I was like, you know what? This is great. I love this. I love Korra Asami. I'm so happy. And now I have a birthday gift for my sibling every year because they love Korra Asami, so, makes it easier for me. But no, really, I really liked the way that they did Legend of Korra, and I really, Avatar The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra are two shows, they're part of the same show, and they're part of the same world that I love. Avatar The Last Airbender was probably one of my biggest inspirations for art. It has a huge impact on my art style, because that was my first exposure to really good animation, because I watched a lot of anime. Sailor Moon had really good animation, and Pokemon was okay, but Avatar The Last Airbender, as far as Western cartoons went, was on a completely different level. You see, Danny Phantom and Kim Possible were two of the biggest shows that I watched, and they weren't terrible, art-wise, but Avatar The Last Airbender was just on its own level. So it had a huge impact on me, and so that's why I've probably talked about it way more than I have anything else. So with that, this video is 27 minutes long, so I'm gonna go ahead and skedaddle now, and probably break this into 2 parts. I'm not sure. I'm not very good at video editing, but yeah, no, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I love that meme, but it's not actually a TED Talk. I'm just talking. So I will see you guys with my next video when I do my top 5 anime that I love. Alright.